I work in intensive setting where a small group of cancer patients are coming for residential retreat for 3 weeks. And during these 3 weeks, they do 6 hours of yoga every day. Now, only 1 hour of asana, but 5 hours of other yoga practices. As a result, I'm lucky to see very often a great spiritual transformation in these clients. And when I talk about it with other colleagues, I'm always, or not always, but very often asked, is spirituality part of our scope of practice? And to me, it's very strange that people don't understand that, but that what sort of sparked my idea of talk today, talking about spirituality in yoga therapy. To me personally, there is no yoga therapy without spirituality, but that's my experience. But I also understand the difficulties in dealing with spirituality, because until about 2 decades ago, spirituality was inherently connected with religion and did not exist on its own. And about 2 decades ago, researchers started to redefine spirituality, and I'm going to read you what they think now spirituality is versus religion. And that's the quote from the research paper. Spirituality is a personal quest for understanding answers to ultimate questions about life, about meaning, and about relationship to the sacred or transcendent. That's spirituality. The religion, on the other hand, is an organized system of beliefs, practices, rituals, and symbols designed to facilitate closeness to the sacred or transcendent. So the misconception of that spirituality equals religion, and misconception of asana to be all of yoga, creates a lot of confusion in our clients, but also in many yoga therapists. And so I think the subject of spirituality needs to be talked about for a long time, so that we do understand that there is no yoga therapy or no yoga without spirituality. Now, why am I saying this? Because Paramahamsa Yogananda says yoga is primarily a spiritual discipline. Shivananda says yoga refers to a certain state of consciousness as well as methods that help one to reach the state of union between one's individual consciousness and the universal consciousness. And Satyananda says Patanjali wrote Yoga Sutras to explain the process and practical methods of raising the level of awareness, gaining deeper wisdom, exploring potential of the mind, and eventually going beyond the mind. All those great ones before us talk about yoga as a spiritual discipline, and somehow we've lost it, because what gets the headlines and usually the dollars in yoga and cancer care? Symptom resolution. So decreased fatigue, decreased nausea, enhanced cognition, decreased pain, and increased range of motions. That's what gets attention of the people. But we see it as all part of yogapathy versus spiritual practice of yoga therapy. And yogapathy was, if you don't know, was coined term by Ananda Bhavanani last year at the Sytar, where he was talking about the difference between symptom resolution and yoga therapy. So, how can we include spirituality in yoga therapy sessions? And I bowed to all four speakers before because they all gave the examples of using spirituality in yoga therapy. And I have a feeling that most of you might be using spirituality in yoga therapy, except you may not be even aware that you're doing it. I came across a wonderful book which is called Radical Remission. This is a researcher who talked to about over 1,000 cancer patients who had spontaneous remission. And suddenly, one day they were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, the next day they had no cancer. She also talked to the healers in different traditions. And she came across about 75 different factors that were causing that remission. But out of 75, only 9 happened in every case. And out of those 9, 3 were spiritual. I'll read you all 9, but I will start with the body first. So, radically changing the diet, using herbs and supplements, increasing positive emotions, releasing suppressed emotions, following one's intuition, taking control over one's health, embracing social support, having a purpose of life, and deepening spiritual connection. Now, as I went through those 9, I went through 5 Panchakosha, 5 levels of Panchakosha, starting from the body and going up to the Anandamaya. So it's interesting that if in the radical remission, suddenly the body was able to completely change the structure and get rid of the disease. I wanted to give you 2 examples of my clients or our clients from these retreats. One example I like because healing does not mean curing. And in this case, it was stage 4 colon cancer, which, well, you know, the guy was given about 2 months to live. And he was really working hard in the retreats for those 3 weeks. During these 3 weeks, we do tests, psychological tests, first day and the last day, and we discuss it with the clients. And here is what he was saying. Oh, he came to us full of anger, full of regret, and full of fear of dying. After having a 3 week of retreats, he said, when we reviewed together improved test results at the end of the retreat, Harry said, yes, that's about how I feel, at peace with myself and the world. And one more thing. When I came to the program, I was afraid of death. Now I'm not. I will live as long as I can and spend as much time with my son as possible. Unfortunately, he died 4 weeks later, but he died peacefully, surrounded by his friends and family. And the referring medical doctor commented that Beyond Cancer Retreat was the best present we could give him before passing on, because he passed peacefully. So that's one. The other one was even more dramatic. That has not much. That is more of the chronic diseases patient, not so much cancer. But it was about 70-year-old English gentleman who was still practicing therapist. We witnessed a dramatical spiritual transformation which opened, and I quote, a whole new dimension in the experience of being alive for him. Changing his attitude towards life, and again quote, wanting things straightforward, nothing concealed, a higher integrity, as if the heart could not stand anything not quite right and not straight and authentic. These are his words, by the way. As an atheist, Nick suddenly found something more. And again I quote, something out and beyond my small self, something altogether larger and more powerful than myself, to whom the only right attitude seemed to be praise. This has given my life a new sense of direction, and this respect, a new sense of direction in this respect, and it is a joyful thing. Interestingly enough, he did not know anything about yoga. He's never done yoga. After this 3 weeks retreat, he went back home. He started to study yoga. And today he's doing yoga therapy based, actually his therapy based on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. He's discovered Yoga Sutras. He says this is the best psychology that can be. So yes, so if we have any last minute. Yes, I'm just about to summarize. So yoga is a spiritual practice. The healing experience often demands a spiritual response. And all we do is we just facilitate, we create the safe environment to create possibility of healing through client spiritual transformation, independently of their cancer diagnosis. Thank you very much.